Good morning and welcome to the radio reading service. We are a United Way partner agency broadcasting here from the campus of Fayeville State University on this Saturday morning, here to read today's edition of the Fayeville Observer with you. We are a nonprofit agency and we appreciate your support, appreciate you listening in this morning. We'll be reading from today's edition of the Fayeville Observer. My name is Stuart Walters. My wife Beth will be joining me here shortly to help read today. So we are glad to be with you this morning. Let's jump right on into it. Today is Saturday, February the 10th. We will be reading today's edition of the Fayeville Observer. And let's look at the weather first, as we normally do. Weather's moderating some. We got a lot of potential rain in the forecast. Today, we've already had some rain this morning, if you've looked out or been out any this morning. Very cloudy out there, but it's warming up. It's going to be a high of 70 today. There's a chance of some rain, even maybe a thunderstorm tomorrow with a high of 60. Tonight there's a chance of a thunderstorm. The low's only going to get down to about 64. And then tomorrow's going to be some more chances of rain and a thunderstorm. Several chances of thunderstorms around. A high of 76 tomorrow. Some rain Monday with a high of 71. Tuesday's going to be a little cooler. Maybe a little bit of rain, high of 54, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday back in the 60s and 70s, cloudy with a couple chances of rain. So definitely warmer than it was in the early part of January, and some chances of precipitation here and there. So maybe a little bit of break on our electric bills and our heating bills and that sort of thing. Okay, let's look at today in history. Today is Saturday, February 10th, the 41st day of 2018. There are 324 days left in the year. On February 10th, 1968, U.S. figure skater Peggy Fleming, who was only 19, won America's only gold medal at the Winter Olympic Games in Grenoble, France. In 1763, Britain, Spain, and France signed the Treaty of Paris, ending the 7 Years' War. In 1936, Nazi Germany's Reichstag passed a law investing the Gestapo's secret police with absolute authority exempt from any legal review. In 1942, RCA Victor presented Glenn Miller and his orchestra with a gold record for their recording of Chattanooga Choo Choo, which had sold more than 1 million copies. In 1949, Arthur Miller's play Death of a Salesman opened at Broadway's Morosco Theater with Lee J. Cobb as Willie Loman. And today's celebrity birthdays: opera singer Lyndon Price is 91, actor Robert Wagner is 88, rock musician Don Wilson is 85, singer Roberta Flack is 81, singer Jimmy Merchant is 78, movie director Michael Apted is 77, rock musician Bob Spalding is 71, Olympic gold medal swimmer Mark Spitz is 68, Walt Disney Company Chairman and Chief Executive Robert Iger is 67. Rock musician and composer Corey Larios is 67. Actress Kathleen Beller is 62. Country singer Lionel Cartwright is 58. Movie director Alexander Payne is 57. Actress Laura Dern is 51. Writer, producer, director Vince Gilligan is 51. Country singer Dude Mowry is 46. And actor Jason Olive is 46. Actress Elizabeth Banks is 44. And pop singer Rosanna Tavares is 41. In the Need to Know section, there are 4 items today. Today is the last day of the Korean Presbyterian Church annual spring roll sale, and my wife went by there yesterday and said it was packed out. The hours are 8 a.m. to noon. The church is at 1251 Ireland Drive. Spring rolls are 10 for $7, are sold in vials of spicy sweet sauce. For more information, you can call 323-0439. The deadline for breast cancer survivors to register for the Ball in Pink to attend Fayeville State University's annual Ball in Pink basketball game for breast cancer awareness is 5 p.m. Monday. The game is February 17th against Winston-Salem State University. Money raised goes to Cape Fear Valley Health Foundation Friends of the Cancer Center. Breast cancer survivors get free admission and special seating. Nancy Anderson, the Chancellor's wife, will host a reception and recognition ceremony for survivors following the women's game, which starts at 1 p.m. To register, contact Mike King at 672-2565. Item number 3, Girl Scout cookies. The annual cookie sale runs through March 3rd, and Girl Scouts continue their booth sales. Help military men and women by donating to Operation Cookie Drop when you make a purchase. And item 4, Bread and Bowls, the annual fundraiser which benefits Operation Inasmuch, is February 23rd at the Hay Street United Methodist Church. The event features chicken corn chowder or chili served in a handmade pottery bowl for $20 or in a bread bowl for $10, along with a drink and dessert. Lunch will be served from 11:30 to 2:30, and dinner will be served from 4:30 to 7:30. Tickets may be purchased at faoiam.org, or for more information, call 433-2161. And Livewire for today. Several questions here. Question: I am walking in the park, and the construction company that did the last phase of the parking lot left signs and caution tape and stuff. It looks really bad. Who is responsible for cleaning up the mess they left? CC said she was referring to the new parking lot off Bullard Street near Hope Mills Municipal Park. We asked Town Manager Melissa Adams about the status of the work. Adams says the town has not yet done a final inspection of the work because the contractor still has to replace a small area of asphalt and do some minor landscaping. People walking keep tearing down the caution tape when it should be left up until the project is completed, Adams said. So until the work is completed, the signs and the caution tape will remain. Once the project is finished, the contractor will be responsible for removal of these items. Second question. I'm a senior. I need someone to do yard work. I don't see advertisements in your paper for yard work anymore, and I don't have a computer, so I can't look online. Answer: as you have found, JB, most of the services that once advertised in the classified advertising section of local newspapers have moved their advertising to the internet. The Cumberland County Public Library has computers available at all of its branches for the public to use to access the internet. Staff can assist you if you don't know how to operate a computer. You can also arrange to use the library's Book a Librarian program to get a 45-minute lesson on how to work the computer and search the internet for someone to help you with your yard work. The Craigslist classified advertising website has multiple listings of small businesses that do lawn care and yard work in and around Fayeville. The Yellow Pages website has a few listings. A staffer at the library said you can call and ask for someone at the reference desk to do a quick search to give you a few phone numbers of local companies that do yard work. Call the library at 483-7727 to arrange a Book a Librarian appointment or to reach the reference desk. Was ours okay?
The next article was about a visit yesterday from Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson, and he visited Fayeville and discussed Hurricane Matthew relief. The government must streamline its process of bringing aid money to communities that suffer natural disasters, Secretary Ben Carson of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development said on Friday. Carson made the remarks at a news conference after he and U.S. Representative Robert Pittenger met with local leaders and toured Azalea Manor, a public housing apartment building for older adults in Fayeville that was damaged by flooding during Hurricane Matthew in October 2016. Floodwater from Blancs Creek was several feet deep on the first floor, said Chief Financial and Operations Officer Shannon Powell, forcing residents from that level to evacuate to the upper floors. The property has since been repaired. The state and federal government have allocated hundreds of millions of dollars to help North Carolina's Matthews victims, but not all of it has reached them. Some lower-income homeowners in and around Fayeville and elsewhere in North Carolina who can't afford to repair or replace their homes are still waiting for assistance. Carson said that he recognizes that the system that exists can use some improvement because it takes so long to get things done. Fayeville City Councilman Larry Wright told Carson that some of his lower-income elderly constituents who lost their homes remain displaced and don't expect to receive help for several years. What's taking so long? Wright said. Carson said he met with other federal agency leaders on Monday to discuss how to more rapidly distribute disaster relief. What we decided after our meeting on Monday is that we need to kind of scrap all these things that have been put in place before and start all over again. Because there are a lot of good elements in all the different agencies, but unless they're coordinated in the right way, it just gets in people's way. President Trump's administration understands that this is a big problem, and I'm not going to rest until we get it taken care of, Carson said. North Carolina is due to get $237 million from housing and urban development, including $35 million amongst Fayeville and Cumberland County. State officials said the money is months away from reaching hurricane victims. The money is approved, Carson said. Local officials are to decide how it's released. That is the big push right now, and I think it's complete or almost complete. A spokesman for Carson said in an interview later there has been a delay because North Carolina officials changed their spending plan from one that HUD originally approved. Meanwhile, Pittenger said Congress early Friday voted to allocate another $125 million to North Carolina for hurricane relief. The housing that Carson toured was built in part with HUD money as part of Fayeville's Hope 6 project for public low-income housing. What's been done here I think is spectacular, Carson said. He noted that he had visited an apartment building for elderly people. It is my strong belief that as a humane society, we need to do everything we can to ensure that our elderly experience comfort in their last years of life. And there's an old Chinese saying that says, you can determine the morality of a society by how they take care of their elderly, Carson said. As far as I'm concerned, that's a non-issue. What we do have to spend is a little more time talking about are those individuals who find themselves in public assistance who are not elderly or disabled who seem to get stuck. He said people who get stuck because in Washington the government comes up with self-sufficiency program, and as soon as they start climbing the ladder we pull their support so people don't advance, he said. In a way, we've sort of perpetuated the problem. There's a multi-agency council now that is looking at that issue to try to relieve it, Carson said. We want to encourage people, he said. The definition of success is not how many people get into federal aid situations, but how many people we get out of it, and giving people hope, real hope. The next article is concerning 15.1 million approved for Cumberland County schools, and this is out of Raleigh by the Associated Press. Republican legislation phasing in smaller class sizes in North Carolina passed the Senate on Friday in a measure that most Democrats begrudgingly voted for, even as they complained about it. It contained other unrelated provisions that could hurt the Democratic governor. One of the unrelated provisions would spend nearly $58 million among the boards of education in 8 counties, including Cumberland, Robeson, and Sampson counties. 9 of the 14 Senate Democrats joined all Republicans on the floor, voting 37-5 to approve the negotiated measure with the House, which they will take up as a bill Tuesday. A positive House vote would send the bill to Democrat Governor Roy Cooper, who could sign it, veto it, or let it become law without his signature. Democrats accused Republicans of forcing their hands to agree to vote for the class size fix in exchange for the Democrats accepting other items that could harm Cooper, namely changes to the combined state elections and ethics board, and an agreement related to a proposed natural gas pipeline. The natural gas line provision allocates $57.8 million to the local school boards. Negotiated in the bill with no parliamentary method able to remove it, its language added a new ninth board member that must be neither a Democrat nor a Republican, and gives the governor the ability to remove any member at his pleasure. The Republicans made the change in response to a Supreme Court ruling 2 weeks ago that favored Cooper. But Cooper wants the board returned to what it was for decades until recently, with the governor's party getting majority of seats. One state Democrat suggested this latest proposal would wind up in court soon. The class size fix is a top issue for school administrators, teachers, and parents in the lawmakers' districts. Some of us hold our nose and vote for it because we're concerned about the kids, but it's bad, really bad. Representative Paul Lowe of Forsyth County Democrats said during Florida debate, "You didn't have to do it this way. You have the strength, the power, and the votes to do it this way, but it's wrong." The bill would also require that $57.8 million that utilities behind the proposed Atlantic Coast Pipeline have agreed to provide will go to schools in 8 eastern counties along the pipeline's proposed route. That includes $15.1 million for Cumberland County, $7.5 million for Robeson County, $2.4 million for Sampson County, and $875,000 for the Clinton City Schools in Sampson County. A memorandum of agreement Cooper reached with the pipeline operators designates the money for environmental mitigation, economic development, and renewable energy. But Republicans said Cooper overstepped his authority in reaching such an agreement. Republican State Rep. John Soka of Cumberland County said Republican lawmakers concluded that they should consider the money to be treated as a fine or forfeiture, and the state constitution requires fines and forfeitures to be spent on education. He described himself as pleased as punch to be able to provide the money to the schools. Republican lawmakers spent Thursday, to the distaste of Democrats, in a committee grilling the governor's new lobbyist about the agreement and questioning whether the money was a prerequisite for the administration to issue a key water permit 2 weeks ago. Cooper's aide said repeatedly the permit and agreement were worked out separately. "We, the legislature, should determine where funds that are raised on behalf of the state of North Carolina go," said Senator Paul Newton, a Cabarrus County Republican. "This body appropriates those funds." The bill passed by the Senate would lower teacher-student ratios in kindergarten through 3rd grade in phases, bringing them fully into effect in the fall of 2021. Initially, the process was proposed to begin next fall. Now it will start in fall 2019. Districts also would get to share $61 million next fall to pay for certain types of specialty instructors, such as those who teach music and art, with the amount increasing rapidly over the following 3 years.
Good. This next article is about the Grove Street Bridge. It's been the new one's been under construction, and the old one's getting ready to close. The Grove Street Bridge over the Cape Fear River will close for about 4 weeks starting next month, so workers can make repairs and perform maintenance work. One lane in each direction over the bridge is expected to close February 19th when preliminary work is scheduled to start. The bridge on Grove Street, which also is North Carolina 24 in that area, is expected to completely close March 5th if the weather is suitable, according to a statement released Friday by the State Department of Transportation. It is expected to be closed for 28 days. Signs will let drivers know in advance about the lane closures and the detour. While the bridge is closed, traffic will use Cedar Creek Road which is North Carolina 53 in the area, Clinton Road, which becomes Person Street, and US 301, which is Eastern Boulevard. The work is expected to extend the bridge's longevity. About 25,000 vehicles a day go over the bridge, which was built in 1974. The work, which will be done by contractor AAC West Coast LLC of Benicia, California, will include concrete repairs below the bridge and replacement of deck joints on the driving surface. The Department of Transportation awarded the $1 million contract in December. Lots of bridge work on Grove Street, with the new bridge being built as well. It's getting close to being open. Okay, next article is about the Cape Fear Kiwanis and their annual pancake breakfast. It's written by Bill Kirby. Pancakes, pancakes, and more pancakes. Come get them, says Mel Parker, lead chief and chairwoman of the 44th annual Kiwanis Club of Cape Fear Pancake Sale. It's a project that all of us are proud of, says Parker, a club member the past 7 years. Some people swear they're the best pancakes they've ever eaten. Club members to include Jerry Fonke, Melissa McIntosh, Joey Bowles, Les Bellis, Steve Goodson, Stacy Gillis, Joe Zima, and Bill Belanger will be among those starting early each morning for the sale that is scheduled from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. February 23rd and February 24th at the Greek Orthodox Church and Hellenic Center on Oak Ridge Avenue. They'll be coming in each morning around 4 a.m. to mix the batter, and Fonke, McIntosh, Bowles, Bellis, Goodson, and Gillis will be among club members. Flipping the Imagination Library, the Fayeville Police Activity League, the Cape Fear Valley Medical Center Neonatal Unit, Safe Kids of North Carolina, and 4 Key Club education scholarships each year as well. Key Club is a high school organization supported by Kiwanis International, and Parker says area Key Club members will be helping out at the pancake sale too. We divide the money to all those organizations, Parker says. None of it is used by the club. It's all donated. We also feed the homeless on Saturday. The Fayeville Police Department picks up the plates and takes them to the homeless. We've been doing that the past 6 or 7 years. We also let first responders, law enforcement fighters, and emergency medical in uniform eat free. It's a way for us to show our appreciation for what they do. Okay, you likely may be wondering about those pancakes. 2 pancakes and 3 sausage patties, and they are nice big patties, Parker says, and unlimited coffee. Orange juice, milk, and bottled water, Parker says, are just $1. Okay, you likely may be wondering about the maple syrup. We have packets of syrup with the takeout, Parker says, but she knows all about pancake lovers who try to drench their hotcakes in maple syrup. We'll have squeezed bottles of syrup, Parker says, about those who choose to dine in. They can squeeze as much as they want. Here, give me another. Okay, let's look at behind the wheel now. Myron Pitts is doing that today. If you've had to fill your gas tank lately, you've probably noticed gas prices are on the rise. The average price for a gallon of regular in Fayeville is $2.45 as of Thursday, according to figures from Auto Club AAA. For the state, the average is $2.49. And for the nation, it's $2.62. Those numbers are still low compared with historic averages, but drivers around here have become accustomed to prices closer to the lower end of the $2 to $3 range, and the extra bite in the wallet is noticeable. Prices have dialed down a bit from last week in Fayeville when the average was $2.49, but they are up compared with last month when the average was $2.32, and this time last year when the price was $2.13. A higher than normal demand for gas in January is one thing driving the spike, according to Tiffany Wright, AAA Carolina spokeswoman, in a late January interview quoted in several websites. Crude oil is trading at a higher price on the stock market, which is also raising prices at the pump. Even the hurricanes from the fall are coming in for blame, as the market still has not fully recovered. If you're looking for relief, consider this news release headline at the AAA site. Gas price trends showing no relief. The story goes on to say the national average has risen 6 straight weeks and that everyone in the country is paying more for a tank of gas year over year. The site also notes drivers' concerns for prices along their route with the AAA map. And there's Always Gas Buddy, which shows the low-priced leaders in the area. Our regular readers know it's a favorite of Behind the Wheel. Different subject, a drone may one day deliver blood and other medical supplies if the State Department of Transportation has any say about it. The DOT has been studying drone technology for years according to a news release, and it is submitting a proposal for what it calls unmanned medical supply delivery to the Federal Aviation Administration's pilot program for unmanned aircraft systems, known in lay terms as drones. That program in tribal governments on small pilot projects involving drone technology. The DOT proposal calls for setting up medical distribution centers that would use drones to deliver supplies, working with global drone delivery companies such as Matternet and Zipline, the release stated. According to the release, blood and other supplies currently travel by courier to hospitals and testing facilities. With drones, medical providers would get the test results and supplies they need much faster. The DOT will learn in May if FAA accepts its proposal.
And the next article is also by Bill Kirby. His column says, Brian Pierce said it well and said it best. Because of these people, the Vice President of Facilities and Mobile Integrated Health Care for the Cape Fear Valley Health Foundation was saying somebody didn't have to say to their loved one would not be here tomorrow. This was a gathering of cardiac arrest survivors Thursday night at the Crown Complex Ballroom and those who saved their lives. From the 911 dispatch operators, first responders, medics, paramedics, emergency room physicians and nurses, catheterization teams, and cardiologists. It's been amazing, Helen Averitt, 56, ironically a retired paramedic herself, would say, I'm thankful to God that He kept me here. And to those heroes and heroines on August 25th, 2017, who were there to bring Averitt back to life after her heart stopped. I coded several times, Averitt says. One of my friends said we're not giving up on her. I think of you in chest compressions whenever I sneeze. The moment was one of levity at our heartfelt banquet for cardiac arrest survivors and their families, but a poignant moment not only for those who experienced the threshold of death when their hearts gave out, but those whose medical skills gave them back their lives. Naomi Allen can tell you about how her heart stopped and the medical personnel in the room who saved her life. From the bottom of my heart that's still beating and pumping because of you, I say thank you for not just my life, but for any and all the difference you make in the lives of all on a daily basis, Allen says. Her words projected on the video screens with the names of the healthcare men and women who saved her from what she describes as the jaws of death. From the top to the bottom of my beating heart, thank you. Emery Gibbs would send a grateful message too about his cardiac arrest on July 10th, 2017. Thanks for not giving up on me for 8.5 minutes, he would write to the paramedics, the emergency room cardiac staff, and cardiac intensive care unit. Because of your diligence, I am back at work. Would love to be with you tonight, but am with you in spirit. With tears in my eyes and all choked up, it is probably good that I am not, because I'm overwhelmed with emotions right now. There were other survivors to include Mary Patrick. God spared my life, says Patrick, 73, a woman of deep personal faith and president for the People's Cross, a 501c3 nonprofit that supports the white Christian cross that stands high along Southeastern Boulevard, and Dr. Daka. Dr. Matthew Daka, her cardiologist, was there Thursday evening just to give Patrick a hug, and another poignant moment graced the ballroom. My dad sends his cheers to all of the survivors, Caroline Hodges, the reigning Miss Teen North Carolina International, with a platform of a matter of the heart, and daughter of cardiologist Michael Hodges, would say. A heart attack victim himself, Michael Hodges teaches cardiovascular science each Thursday evening to physician assistant students at Methodist University. From 9/11 dispatchers like Taylor Randall and Regina Utsi to EMS folks like Ben Shooter, Leslie Owens, Dan Witt, and Larry Adams to nurses from Tamara Sansoshi, Jess Miller, Rebecca Moultrie, Amy Ewald, Elizabeth Crawford, and to doctors all to the cardiologist. Brian Pierce said it well. Because of these people, Pierce looked into the audience of heroes and heroines and survivors. Somebody didn't have to say their loved one would not be here tomorrow.
You got it?
Yeah, 10:30.
I don't have the thing. Just read. I'll read. This next article is about the Applebee's at Highland Center. It is actually closing. Here's a head scratcher, writes Michael Futch. What's up with Rustic Barrel Sport and Tap on Skybow Road? The sports bar and eatery opened October 16th in the Fayeville Commons Shopping Center on Skybow Road. Megan Amadeo, Director of Operations for the Columbus, Ohio-based business, said just before the restaurant opened, Fayeville will probably be our best build-out yet. We're just really looking forward to that one. Everything is up to date. 4 months later, Rustic Barrel is closed. Temporarily closed for maintenance, reads a sign posted to the building. An electrician was working on the lighting under the roof on Friday, but said he was not doing any interior work. Indications are that this chain may have gone out of business. The company's website no longer has contact information for the public and the media. It still lists Fayeville as one of 6 Rustic Barrel locations across the nation. The restaurant opened in a standalone building that was initially being constructed for a Tilted Kilt sports bar and restaurant. Amadeo no longer works for Rustic Barrel, according to her online LinkedIn profile. Her 9-month employment ended in December. Amadeo could not be reached for comment. HeraldMailMedia.com reported January 3rd that the Hagerstown, Maryland location had been put on a notice by the Washington County liquor officials after questions surfaced about its license documentation and status of state sales tax payments. The restaurant's general manager met with the County Board of License Commissioners in light of the business apparently falling behind on sales tax payments. The online publication said liquor board officials told HeraldMailMedia.com that discrepancies were found with license documentation. No one answered the phone listed for the Hagerstown restaurant on Friday morning. The Rustic Barrel in Novi, Michigan is closed according to the reservation service Open Table. Locations in Florence, Kentucky, and Canton and Columbus, Ohio also appear to have closed. No one answered the phones at those locations Friday. The GBT Realty Corporation of Brentwood, Tennessee, which developed Fayeville Commons, deferred questions to a public relations firm. A message left for the firm was not immediately returned. Bless his heart, he did a lot of investigating to not get a whole lot of information. Okay, reading on in Michael's column, the Applebee's closes in Highland Center. The Applebee's Neighborhood Bar and Grill in Highland Center on Rayford Road closed effective January 29th. The restaurant, located near Harris Teeter, had been in business since '97. On Friday morning, brown paper covered the windows and the doors at the entrance, and the window blinds were closed. Black tape had been placed over the Applebee's names on the windows. We're truly disappointed with the necessity of this decision, and we regret any inconvenience it has caused our valued guests, states a sign posted on the building. Michael Olander, the CEO of the franchise ownership Apple Gold Group, said on the sign that we greatly appreciate your patronage and look forward to continuing to serve guests at our other nearby locations. Those include Applebee's on Ramsey Street, Skybow Road, and Good Midland Drive. Raleigh is corporate headquarters for the Apple Gold Group. B.J. Stokes, who is General Counsel and Vice President of Development at Apple Gold Group, did not immediately return a phone message left Friday. The Triangle Business Journal reported on August 23rd that the business service was closing some Applebee's locations and was likely to close more. For all retail and casual dining restaurants specifically, it's been tough going these last couple of years. There's a new eatery at Fort Bragg. While Fayeville appears to have lost a couple of eating establishments, Fort Bragg looks to be on the verge of gaining one. Brandon Landry, who is Walk-On's Enterprise founder and CEO, announced Thursday that the company had executed a franchise agreement with Go Culinary to bring a Walk-On's Bistro and Bar to the installation next year. Drew Brees, the quarterback of the National Football League's New Orleans Saints, became the co-owner and partner in the business in 2015. He brings the same pride, perseverance, and perfection from the field to the restaurant, the Walk-On's website states. The chain of casual restaurants specializes in Louisiana-style food based in Baton Rouge. Walk-On's count 17 locations according to a news release. We chose to franchise with Walk-On's. We were looking for an environment that offered our niche market, the U.S. military, something it did not have, Chuck Matheny, Chief Operating Officer at Go Culinary, said in a release. It was important for us to find a franchise partner who understood the importance of giving back to the military, and we knew that Walk-On's valued this and would work with us globally to meet the needs of soldiers and their families. This next article is by Drew Brooks, the military editor for the paper, entitled Showtime Porter Visits Fort Bragg Troops. Sean Porter loves the production. The former International Boxing Federal Welterweight Champion and current top contender for the World Boxing Council title said he feeds off the spotlight. It's part of what drives his competitive nature. But at Fort Bragg on Friday, Porter was not prepared. I'm at a loss for words, he told a group of soldiers from the 3rd Military Information Support Battalion. I'm blown away. Weeks ago, Porter had never heard of Fort Bragg, the nation's largest military installation. But with a friend, a former professional boxer now serving in the Army Reserve, preparing to deploy, Porter insisted on a visit. So days after the birth of his first child, Porter bought a plane ticket to North Carolina to visit his friend and other troops on the installation. He held a meet and greet at Fort Bragg Sports USA restaurant. Later Friday, he was to visit the 18th Airborne Corps' Combatives School before attending a UFC Fight Night event at Sports USA. In between those events, Porter received a tour of the 3rd Military Information Support Battalion's 1st Lieutenant Michael A. Merkel's Special Operations Forces Media Operations Complex. Wow, mouthful. A soldier leading the tour described the facility as the dream works of the Army, referencing the movie studio behind Ants, Shrek, and How to Train Your Dragon. The Media Operations Center produces audio, visual, and graphic products for the Army and allies around the world. The Fort Bragg facility is one of a kind within the force. Porter met soldiers who have developed commercials to combat human trafficking and gangs in South America. He was shown how the soldiers supported relief workers in Puerto Rico, Texas, and the Virgin Islands after hurricanes last year. And he met civilian workers whose pre-Army careers include movies in the Transformers franchise and Mr. Popper's Penguins. From CGI masters to massive printers able to create thousands of products in a matter of hours, Porter's eyes were open. Being in the Army is about opportunities, he said. It's not just about going to war. There's so much more. Addressing a group of a few dozen soldiers before signing autographs and posing for photos, Porter received a warm welcome but quickly tried to turn the visit around. I can't thank you. I can't applaud you enough. I'm just so thrilled that this is going on. On behalf of every American, I want to thank you for what you do for us. Porter began training under his father's tutelage when he was 4 years old. He began competing at 8 years of age. And he was the IBF welterweight champion from 13 to 14. Overall, the 30-year-old has 28 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw in his professional career. During his Fort Bragg visit, Porter shared stories from that career, which includes twice being a sparring partner for Manny Pacquiao. Whatever he does, Porter said, he tries to do his best. He urged the soldiers to do the same. Whatever you do, do it to the best of your ability. Porter said he wanted to be accessible as possible during his Fort Bragg visit, and he said he hopes to return. Hopefully, this will not be the last time.
The next article is from the public safety section. January, Sarah Jasper, 31, of the 1600 block of Melvinville Court was charged Friday with larceny by employee and conspiracy. Bail at $2,500. Fernando Julian Sanchez, 29, of the 1200 block of Aldous Place was charged Friday with 3 counts of financial card theft, 2 counts of breaking and entering a motor vehicle, larceny and possession of stolen property, and 1 count each of attempted obtaining property by false pretense. Bail was set at $11,000. John Rendell McCroy, 45, of the 800 block of Amy Street, charged Thursday with 2 counts of financial card theft, and 1 count each of breaking and entering a motor vehicle and misdemeanor larceny. Bail was $11,000. Jason Spell, 18, of the 500 block of IGM Street, was charged Thursday with 3 counts of breaking and entering. Bail was $40,000. John Cecil McMillan, 27, of Braxton Boulevard, charged Thursday with possessing stolen property. Bail set at $1,000. Jock Tupac Shakur Martin, 21, of the 1900 block of Overlook Drive, charged Thursday with 3 counts of breaking and entering, 2 counts of larceny and possessing stolen property. Bail $40,000. And several break-ins were reported. Francam Drive, the Cricket Wireless Store, at 4:09 a.m. Friday, 4 phones taken. Elm Street, the 1000 block, at 12:37 a.m. Friday, electronics taken. Kensington Circle, the 100 block, at 3:32 p.m. Thursday, washer, dryer, and window air condition taken. Sherman Drive, the 300 block, 2:05 p.m. Thursday, handgun, money, and electronics taken. On Matt Hare Road, 2:35 p.m. Wednesday, chainsaws and coolers taken. And in Stedman, NC 210 South, 4:28 p.m. Wednesday, nothing reported missing, and a vehicle break-in at Yadkin Road, 5900 block, reported at 2:10 a.m. 2 purses and contents included money taken. Another article by Bill Kirby about local happenings and information. Blood donors are needed so that patients can continue to receive life-saving treatments during the winter months, according to a news release from the American Red Cross. Upcoming blood donation sites are available at Purnell Sweat High School, 11344 Deep Branch Road, Pembroke, 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on February 17th. First Presbyterian Church, 901 North Park Avenue, Dunn, 1:30 to 6 p.m. February 20th. In Selma at the Selma Masonic Lodge, 405 North Pollock Street, 2 to 6:30 p.m. February 21st. In Harnett County at Overhills High School, 2495 Ray Road, Spring Lake, 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. February 22nd. Harnett Central High School, 2911 Harnett Central Road, Angier, 8:30 to 2 p.m. February 23rd. Shallotte Middle School, 225 Village Road, Shallotte, 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on February 24th. Shallotte Presbyterian Church, 5070 Rourke Drive, Shallotte, 1 to 5:30 p.m. February 27th. South Columbus High School, Stallion Drive in Tabor City, 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. February 28th. All who donate blood through February 26th, the release says, are eligible to receive a $5 Amazon.com gift card. To make an appointment to give blood, visit redcrossblood.org or call 800-733-2767. The Lupus Foundation of America, North Carolina chapter, has scheduled a meeting for those afflicted with lupus, their families, and caregivers from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Tuesday at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, All-American Homes, 6920 Cliffdale Road. There is no charge. Send email inquiries to info@lupusnc.org or call 877-849-8271 extension 1. The 11th annual Bread and Bowls meal to support Fayeville area Operation Inasmuch is scheduled from 11:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. for lunch and 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. for dinner, February 23rd at Hay Street United Methodist Church. Meals are $10 each, or $20 if you wish for your lunch or dinner to be served in a homemade North Carolina pottery bowl created by Greg Hathaway, Potter Smith, Green Springs Pottery, Cape Fear Studios, and Carrie's Clay Creation, and you keep the bowl. And the fare of choice is chicken, corn chowder, or chili, cookie, tea, or coffee. Tickets are available online at faoiam.org or in person at Fayeville Area Operation Inasmuch, 531 Hillsborough Street, or by calling 433-2161. Angela Brown, a world-renowned soprano, performs tonight with the Fayeville Symphony Orchestra in a concert scheduled for 7:30 p.m. in J.W. Seabrook Auditorium at Fayeville State University. The concert celebrates the sesquicentennial of FSU and the influence of African Americans on music composed during the 150-year time period the university has been in existence, including works by Scott Joplin, George Gershwin, William Grant Steele, and others. Angela Brown is a trailblazer who has her mission to bring opera to the people, that is to everyone, says Jeffrey Womble, spokesman for FSU. This will be her second visit to Fayeville and FSU. In her previous visit, she worked with our FSU voice students. This is a significant contribution by the Fayeville Symphony Orchestra to the celebration of FSU's historical achievements. Tickets can be purchased online at fayevillesymphony.org or at the door. FSU students with proper identification are admitted at no charge, or the phone number is 433-4690.
Okay, been a lot in the news lately about the Gen X situation, and this is an article related to all of that. It's written by Steve Devane. The state has the authority to regulate substances without federal standards, and Environmental Protection Agency administrator told 4 state senators that had asked about the matter. The senators, including one representing Bladen County, wrote a letter to the EPA on January 23rd. Onis Trey Glenn, an EPA regional administrator in Atlanta, responded Tuesday. The senator's letter was written as the state continues an investigation into Gen X, a compound manufactured at the Chemours plant in Bladen County. The compound, which has been found in more than 250 private wells around the plant, has been linked to several forms of cancer in animal studies, but it isn't known if that is the same on humans. Senator Bill Rabin, a Republican from Brunswick County, is one of 4 legislators who signed the letter. His district includes Bladen County. The 4 signers of the letter are Republicans who serve on the Senate's Select Committee on North Carolina River Water Quality. Rabin's signature was alongside Senator Trudy Wade, the Guilford County chairwoman of the committee, Senator Michael Lee of New Hanover County, and Senator Andy Wells of Catawba County. Glenn told the senators that under the Clean Water Act, the state has the authority to regulate compounds such as Gen X. Compounds without a federal standard are regulated as pollutants. A discharge of any pollutant into waters of the United States is prohibited unless authorized by a permit. The senator's letter also asked the agency to audit the State Department of Environmental Quality's permitting process under the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System program. The EPA audits the state's permitting program every 5 years, with the most recent review occurring in 2015. The agency concluded then that the program met federal requirements. Glenn said the EPA has closely monitored the state's actions during the Gen X investigation and has assisted the department with its efforts. Well, let's turn to the opinion page. This one's written by, first one is written by Troy Williams, a frequent contributor to the Observer's opinion page. He writes, "It appears partisan politicians have finally succeeded in getting Americans to turn on each other. The politicians are the winners and we are the losers because in reality they are just playing a game of musical chairs. The last presidential election has divided Americans like few in history, and it doesn't appear we are going to be willing to kiss and make up anytime soon. Perhaps it's always been this bad, but it seems worse at the present more than any time that I can remember. Everywhere I go, people are talking politics, and they are becoming less tolerant of anyone who has an opposing view. Some studies have shown the polarization is dividing American society, not just politics. Partisans have developed a deep distrust of people from the other side of the aisle. Conservative talk radio runs interference for the right during the day, and late-night talk show hosts have become the resistance for the left at night. Elected leaders from both parties rarely appear to communicate or cooperate with each other. President Trump delivered his State of the Union speech last week, and Congress's inability to work together for the good of our great nation was on full display. Some Democratic lawmakers skipped the event, and more than 60 Democrats boycotted the president's inauguration as well. I won't judge either side, but it ought to be apparent why they can't get much done on Capitol Hill these days. Congressman John Lewis of Georgia frequently invokes the name of the late Dr. Martin Luther King as a reason he will not communicate with President Trump. Lewis is to be commended for a life of public service, especially in the area of civil rights. He says Dr. King would not have met with President Trump, and who am I to question his rationale? He knew the man personally. But history portrays a different King than the one he describes. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover had a personal dislike for Dr. King, as well as a personal file on him. Because Dr. King was associated with some known communists, Hoover used the opportunity to spy on King, including using eavesdropping devices in his home, office, and hotel rooms when he was traveling. Through Hoover's snooping, he learned some personal things about King, including marital infidelity. Hoover later sought to use this information to discredit King and undermine his legitimacy. King criticized the FBI for its failure to protect civil rights leaders from racist assaults. Hoover, in an angry response, publicly declared that King was the most notorious liar in America. Previously, Hoover had sent secret recordings of King with other women to King's wife. Moreover, Hoover feared Dr. King so much he sent the civil rights leader an anonymous letter urging him to commit suicide. Eventually, Dr. King and Hoover met in Hoover's office in an attempt to heal the public rift. At the meeting, Hoover told King some things about his activity that King realized could have only come from intensive surveillance. Reportedly, Dr. King left the meeting deeply shaken about the extent of FBI spying. The FBI apparently had a vendetta against Dr. King, and still he met with Hoover. Would Dr. King have been a part of this present boycott strategy of President Trump? There is no way to know for sure, but his past behavior and history might suggest otherwise. Campus Reform, a conservative news website, visited John Jay College in New York to solicit student opinions about President Trump's State of the Union address, but they actually read the students' quotes from President Obama's State of the Union talks. If you suspect some of the students used Obama's comments unknowingly to slam Trump as warmongering, aggressive, and immature, you'd be correct. Of course, students immediately changed their opinion when they found out the statements were Obama's and not Trump's. I guess right and wrong depends on who's doing the talking, huh? Despite the unprecedented success of African Americans in politics, the reality is little has changed from the ordinary black person for the ordinary black person in America. The Democratic Party has also yet to deliver on its promises to the black community, but they are successful in sustaining a hostility directed at Republicans. President Trump is a hated man among many blacks. A few weeks ago, a friend of mine declared that any black person who was a registered Republican lacked integrity. I chuckled since the remark was meant for me. I'm a Republican. Instead of focusing on our problems, it apparently is more comfortable for us to attack each other. My party affiliation doesn't determine my worth, and neither does yours. However, as citizens of this great country, we all have a moral obligation to find common ground and make our communities better. In the end, it's not about the top politicians. It is about us. Okay, we are just right at the top of the hour here. It's right at 10:59. So this is the radio reading service, a United Way partner agency. We are broadcasting here from the campus of Fayeville State University using the signal of the UNC Chapel Hill system. I always welcome your comments and questions. You're welcome to call the office if you have concerns or questions of any type. Also encourage you to encourage others, and maybe yourselves if you're able, to make financial donations to the radio reading service, because they are dependent upon community support for the services that they provide. Again, your readers this morning are Beth and Stuart Walters. We are glad to be with you on this Saturday morning. And so now we'll turn, as we normally do at the top of the hour, to today's obituaries. There actually are not very many today, but we will work through those, and then we'll continue reading with the rest of the paper. First, we'll do the late death notices. Lawrence Everett Finney, 52 of Fayeville, that's Calvin Funeral Home. Jerry Ann Smith, 57 of Fayeville, Butler Funeral Home. And Tile L, I guess I'm saying that right, or Tial, Tile L. Melvin, 22 of Fayeville, and that's Cunningham and Sons. Okay, now to the obituaries. Daniel Washington, 68 of Fayeville, died Wednesday, February 7th. There will be a memorial on Sunday at 3 p.m. at St. Luke AME Church. That's Weissman Mortuary. John Harvey Williams, 88 of Fayeville, died Thursday, February 8th. His funeral is Monday at 2 p.m. at Rogers and Breese Funeral Home Chapel. The visitation is at Rogers and Breese from 1 to 1:45 prior to the service. The burial is at Lafayette Memorial Park Cemetery, and that's Rogers and Breese. Priscilla Crow Goodwin, 79 of Fayeville, died Tuesday, February 6th. There is a memorial Monday at 1 p.m. at Snyder Memorial Baptist Church. The visitation is 11:30 a.m. to 12:45 p.m. at the church gathering hall, and that's Rogers and Breese. Hiram Thompson Chapin, 97 of Fuquay, Verona, died Thursday, February 8th. There's a graveside Sunday at 2 p.m. at Somerville Presbyterian Church, and that's O'Quinn Peebles Funeral Home. Connie J. Oxendine, 62 of Pembroke, died Monday, February 5th. The funeral is Saturday at 2 p.m. at Locklear and Sons Funeral Home. Frances Page of Rowland, let's see, she died, it does not give the date of, February 7th, 2018 at Wesley Pines Retirement Center. The visitation will be 10 a.m. Saturday, February 10th, that's the day, at the Rowland United Methodist Church. The service is right now, 11 o'clock, at Rowland United Methodist Church. The burial is at 3 p.m. at Rollin Memorial Park. Rosa Williams, 80, of Carthage, died Thursday, February 8th. The funeral is Tuesday at 1 p.m., Spouting Springs Presbyterian Church in Cameron. The viewing is at the funeral home, which is Hugh and Smith Funeral Home in Carthage. And that viewing is at the funeral home Monday from 1 to 6. The burial is in Bethlehem Missionary Baptist Church. Mildred Phelps, 90, of Wellington, died Thursday, February 8th. The funeral is Sunday at 3 p.m. at Oak Wind People's Funeral Home. The visitation is at Oak Wind People's Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. The burial is a private burial. Doris Arlene Bass, 87, of Clinton, died Wednesday, February 7th. The funeral is Saturday at 2 p.m. at Mount Gilead Baptist Church. The visitation is at Crumpler Honeycutt Funeral Home. Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. The burial is at Mount Gilead Baptist Church Cemetery. That's Crumpler Honeycutt Funeral Home. Johnny Taylor, 68, of Laurel Hill, died Friday, February 9th. The funeral is Monday at noon at Richard Bowles Funeral Service Chapel. The visitation will be at the funeral home Sunday from 6 to 8 p.m. The burial is in Oak Grove Baptist Church Cemetery, and that's Richard Bowles Funeral Service. Linda McDuffie Blue, 90, of Rayford, died Sunday, February 4th. The funeral is Saturday at 2 p.m. St. James Holiness Church. The visitation is at Dobie Funeral Home Friday from 1 to 6. The burial is in the Hope Community Cemetery. And the last one is Dora Locklear. She was 96, of Pembroke, died Thursday, February 8th. The funeral is Sunday at 3:30 p.m. at the Union Chapel Holiness Methodist Church. The viewing is at Union Chapel Holiness Methodist Church Sunday, 2:30 to 3:30, and the burial is at Oxendine Cemetery, and that's Locklear and Son Funeral Home.
The next article is out of Sanford by Nancy McCleary, staff writer. A man who was sought by lawmen for more than a year was arrested Thursday after he was discovered hiding behind a doghouse at a Sanford home, the Lee County Sheriff's Office said. Jesse Diametric Daniels, 36, of the 600 block of Beulah Brown Road, was wanted after failing to appear in court on charges related to the 2016 shooting of a Hope Mills man. Among the charges is first-degree murder. On Thursday, deputies were called to a residence on Sheriff Watson Road after getting a report that Daniels was seen walking in a wooded area behind the house, Captain Brian Allen said. Deputies began looking and found Daniels lying on the ground behind a doghouse, Allen said. At the time, Allen said Daniels was in possession of 15 strips of Suboxone, a drug generically prescribed to help battle opiate addiction. Deputies also found a crushed prescription pill believed to be Opana, a highly addictive painkiller wrapped in clear plastic. Daniels was charged with possession with intent to sell and deliver a controlled substance, misdemeanor possession of a controlled substance, and misdemeanor possession of drug paraphernalia. There were 13 outstanding warrants for arrest against Daniels after he failed to show up in court. At least 2 of those charges were filed in the April 15, 2016 shooting of Travis Lee Ashford of Hope Mills. In addition to the murder charge, the outstanding warrants were for assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill, inflicting serious injury, possession of firearm by a felon, robbery with a dangerous weapon, altering or stealing criminal evidence, and several misdemeanor charges and traffic violations. Bail was set at $486,455. There's also a charge against a Fort Bragg soldier who was arrested Friday on a fugitive warrant from authorities in Harris County, Texas. Levi Austin Goss, 24, who lives on Post, is wanted in Texas for aggravated sex assault on a child between the ages of 14 to 17 and aggravated kidnapping, according to warrants in the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office. Goss's rank and company were not given. The alleged assault happened February 5th, 2013, court documents said. Bail was set at $1 million. Goss is scheduled to appear in district court at 2:30 p.m. Monday for an extradition hearing. And also out of Sanford, a traffic stop in Lee County on Wednesday led to seizure of drugs valued at $22,212 and the arrest of 3 people. Narcotics agents stopped the vehicle at a location that was not identified in a release from the Lee County Sheriff's Department. During the stop, the lawmen found 4,400 doses of Xanax, an anti-anxiety drug, and more than an ounce of marijuana. They arrested the occupants of the vehicle, who were identified as Larry Odell Franklin, Jr. of Surf City, Emilio Gonzalez, 25, of the 300 block of North Steel Street in Sanford, and Karen Ruby Tavara, 27, of the 600 Charlotte Avenue in Sanford. All 3 were charged with possession with intent to sell and deliver marijuana and maintaining a drug vehicle. Franklin and Tavero also were charged with possession with intent to sell and deliver Xanax. Bail was set at $25,000 for Franklin, $15,000 for Tavera, and $15,000 for Gonzalez. And then on the NC editorial roundup, there are 2 articles this morning. Winston-Salem Journal on the Interior Department wanting drilling for oil and natural gas off North Carolina's coast. The drilling for oil and natural gas off North Carolina's coast that the Interior Department wants is too risky for our fine shore. Good for Attorney General Josh Stein for helping to lead the charge to stop this wrong-headed and potentially disastrous policy. Stein has assembled a coalition of attorneys general from a dozen coastal states that want the U.S. Interior Department to cancel the plan announced earlier this month, the Associated Press reported. The AGs warned that expanded offshore drilling threatens their maritime economies and natural resources. Thousands of North Carolinians and 30 coastal communities have voiced their opposition to drilling off North Carolina shores, Stein said in a press release. I will do everything I can, including taking legal action if necessary, to fight on behalf of our people, economy, and natural resources. The group, which includes the Attorney Generals of California, Connecticut, Delaware, Maine, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Oregon, Rhode Island, and Virginia, sent a letter to Interior Secretary Ryan Zink opposing his agency's proposed 5-year oil and gas leasing plan to open new ocean waters. All the AGs are Democrats, the AP reported. Florida has also been slated for expanded offshore drilling until its Republican governor, Rick Scott, met with Zink and asked him to exempt the state. Zink agreed. Governor Roy Cooper met with Zink, pushing for the same exemption. He said they had a good conversation, but he urged residents to continue to be loud to make sure their opposition is noted. Stein reminded Zink the state was ready to sue if the Trump administration approves the drilling, the AP reported. Our state's coastal tourism industry is responsible for 30,000 jobs and $3 billion in annual revenue, Stein said in the letter, and commercial and recreational fishing support an additional 22,500 jobs and $787 million in revenue each year. Visitors to the Tar Heel Coast generated an estimated $650 million in wages and tips. North Carolinians have spent decades protecting and developing our coast. We're not going to hand it over now. And the next article concerns our Senator Richard Burr, and this is out of the News and Observer of Raleigh. U.S. Senator Richard Burr, Republican, North Carolina, is a cautious guy. That's a good trait for the senator leading his chamber's Intelligence Committee. In keeping with his deliberate style, Burr hasn't commented on the report released by House Intelligence Committee, which is chaired by Representative Devin Nunes, Republican of California. Burr's staff said he would have no comment, citing his committee's ongoing investigation. But Burr said he would serve the country well during this superheated moment by lending his measured voice to correct some of the inflammatory remarks made by elected officials, especially President Trump.
Okay, let's turn to Dr. Graham's column for today. The question to Dr. Graham is, where did the angels come from and what do they look like? Have they always existed? This Christmas our 6-year-old son was asking us about this and we didn't know how to answer it. Dr. Graham writes, I'm glad your son is asking questions like this, and I hope you'll encourage him even if you don't always know the answers. Can anything be more important than encouraging our children to learn about God and His love for us? The angels haven't always existed. God created them, and He did so before He even made the universe. Although at times they can take on the appearance of human beings or of glorious heavenly beings, such as appeared to the shepherds on that first Christmas night, they are essentially spiritual beings who were created to serve God. They especially are called to watch over God's people, to protect us and serve us, often in hidden ways. The Bible says, are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation? What difference should they make in our lives? First of all, they should bring us great comfort. Even if we don't see them, they still watch over us and care for us. We are not alone. At the same time, don't be misled by unbiblical speculations about them, and do not worship angels, do not worship images of angels, or give them undue praise. Okay, this is another article from the business section, and it's about the movie theater industry. MoviePass is trying to bring to movie theaters what Netflix did for DVDs and online streaming. Let subscribers watch as many movies as they want for $10 a month. In doing so, MoviePass has struck a chord with moviegoers and a nerve with the movie industry. For many people, going to the movies is worth it only a few times a year. Ticket prices keep rising, and moviegoers have plenty of cheaper alternatives, including Netflix. MoviePass believes it can get people to theaters more often. Major theater chains and movie studios aren't so sure, putting MoviePass's business plan at risk. Subscribers with MoviePass can watch a movie a day, be it a splashy blockbuster or an indie movie contending for the Oscars. Though MoviePass works at most theaters, it has key restrictions. It excludes pricier 3D and IMAX showings and most advanced online sales. And even if everyone in a group has a subscription, tickets must be purchased individually. Subscribers also complain that MoviePass responds too slowly, or not at all, when there's a problem. Nonetheless, the thrill of the bargain has sparked interest. MoviePass said Thursday that it signed up 500,000 subscribers in less than a month, bringing the total to 2 million. I've seen a little over a dozen movies, which is way more than what I would have without it, says Cassie Langdon, a 28-year-old Indianapolis woman who works in sports communications and joined MoviePass in October. Langdon said she's taking chances on smaller releases instead of sticking with blockbusters and their sequels. Success could ultimately bring MoviePass's demise. Although subscribers pay just $10 a month or less with promotions, MoviePass is paying most theaters the full price of the ticket. Wow. The U.S. average is about $9, though $15 and up is common in big cities, putting MoviePass in the red with just one movie. By contrast, MoviePass competitor Cinemia offers just 2 or 3 movies a month for higher fees. Interesting concept. Okay, another article related to the Gen X situation. Despite the continued objections of state Senate Democrats, a Gen X bill spearheaded by New Hanover County Republican cleared the chamber on Friday. Senator Michael Lee crafted a substitute bill that allocated $2.4 million to the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, largely to be used to conduct a review of its administration of the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permitting program. Crucially, Lee amended his bill so that $813,000 of the $2.4 million appropriated to DEQ can be used for the collection of air and water quality samples and to address a much-discussed 40% backlog in permits. This will get us into the short session so we can evaluate that further so we can see how this plays out, Lee said. After a committee hearing earlier this week, DEQ staff said they wished the bill more closely resembled the House version. It replaced, specifically in making funding available for on-the-ground work such as monitoring and testing. Democrats, particularly Senator Angela Bryant of Rocky Mount, expressed concerns about the funding. It should be a permanent fix. You know it is not going to be easy or helpful to get the best staff needed for this issue with a non-recurring amount of $800,000 that we could clearly make recurring, Bryant said, adding she also had concerns about outsourcing any work to the North Carolina Policy Collaboratory helmed by former Assistant Secretary for Natural Resources of the then North Carolina Department of Environmental and Natural Resources. The Collaboratory is a legislature-founded program designed to use university assets to aid government decisions largely relating to environmental matters. The project's research director is a former science advisor to Senate President Pro Tem Phil Berger. Additionally, the Senate bill calls for DEQ to work with the Collaboratory to coordinate the use of mass spectrometers to test for the presence of Gen X and other contaminants should the EPA be unable to continue providing the service. The House bill had called for funding for the purchase of and staff to equip a mass spectrometer at DEQ. It's one thing to be able to utilize mass spectrometers of other institutions or entities, but it would be better if the state would allow for DEQ to acquire its own, because with its own equipment, it could really be able to engage the kind of quality analysis that's needed, said Democratic Senator Ford McKissick of Durham. Lee said he is confident that staff at UNC System Schools will have the expertise to run the equipment while also providing a cost-effective approach. If we keep heading down the path of providing equipment to the relevant agencies when we already have it at all the school systems, we'll be spending millions and millions of dollars to purchase equipment. Another amendment by Fayeville Republican Senator Wesley Meredith called for the North Carolina Policy Collaboratory to use models to predict which wells would be contaminated by the Gen X emanating from air stacks at George Family Works facility. During the community meetings and neighborhood meetings, it was discussed in detail that residents were concerned not only about their well waters, their infiltration systems, but also what is being discharged into the air. Meredith voted for the amended bill while Democratic Senator Ben Clark of Hoke and Cumberland counties voted against it. The bill returned to the House and was sent to the House Select Committee on North Carolina River Quality.
The next article that swindled investors in Florida and elsewhere out of fictitious, although it appears unlikely he can do so since he could not, which were supposedly backed by money that clients owed to the agency. They and other agency employees created fake invoices and other documents to mask the scheme and to make the agency appear financially sound. Some of those investors grouped together in Receivable Management Funding, or RMF, which was organized by Larry Starr of Sarasota. A large number of people and entities were defrauded by the scheme, prosecutors said in the plea agreement. At least 125 individuals lent funds to Smith Advertising as bridge lenders or as members of RMF. 74 of them have claimed that collectively their losses exceeded $55 million. Among them is Marvin Kaplan, a Sarasota real estate investor, who says he lost $24 million in the scheme. Regions Bank, where Kaplan had deposited a number of Smith Advertising checks that later bounced, said it lost $9 million. Last year, a federal judge dismissed a civil lawsuit by Regions that claimed Kaplan knew about the scheme. Kaplan has since sued Regions for damages. When Smith Advertising collapsed in 2012, its net worth was a negative $169 million, prosecutors said. The agency's fake document scheme was actually uncovered in 2009 by a Tennessee company that had maintained a financing arrangement with the Smiths. But rather than exposing the scheme, the company kept quiet after the Smiths agreed to pay the $4.5 million they owed the company. The Smiths even provided the company with a confession. We decided the only way we could do so and to delete the storm was by robbing Peter to pay Paul in hopes that the economy would correct itself. We could only do so by making up false invoices, according to the plea agreement. The plea agreement also says that Todd Smith was the one who discovered he could submit fake invoices and get paid, and was the one who started sending fake invoices to obtain loans after his agency ran into financial trouble. The agency maintained a quote-unquote dark side manual that instructed employees how to create and store fake invoices, prosecutors said. 3 Smith Advertising employees who helped perpetrate the scheme, Tanisha Melvin, Amber Matthias, and Marcia Calder, each pleaded guilty in 2016 to conspiracy to commit wire and mail fraud and agreed to assist prosecutors. And then another article from the Associated Press out of Freeport, Maine. LL Bean imposes limits on its return policy. LL Bean's generous return policy is going to be a little less forgiving. The company, which has touted its 100% satisfaction guarantee for more than a century, is imposing on what Smith said. It's not sustainable from a business perspective. It's not reasonable, and it's not fair to our customers. LL Bean announced Friday that it will now accept returns for any reason for only 1 year with proof of purchase. It will continue to replace products for manufacturing defects beyond that. The company is also imposing a $50 minimum for free shipping as a part of belt tightening that includes a workforce reduction through early retirement incentives and changes in workers' pension plans. The Freeport-based company joins a list of retailers that have tightened return policies. Retailer REI, which was once jokingly dubbed Rental Equipment Incorporated and Return Everything Incorporated because of its unlimited return policy, it imposed a 1-year restriction 5 years ago. Other retailers have been narrowing the window for returns and imposing new conditions. LL Bean's announcement in a memo to employees and in a letter to customers represents a seismic policy shift for the 106-year-old company that used its satisfaction guarantee as a way to differentiate itself from competitors.
Okay, let's take a look at the Winter Olympics, which have now started. Article related to that. It's the headline story of the paper today. Comes from, obviously, from South Korea. The Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, the first games held in South Korea in 30 years, officially opened on Friday with fireworks, song, and symbolism featured among celebrations of light, peace, and harmony. The nods to the country's landmarks and ancient culture, as well as its potential to lead the world in future technological innovations. The opening ceremony at Olympic Stadium featured athletes from 91 countries, including a delegation from North Korea that marched into Olympic Stadium with athletes from South Korea. Kim Jo-young, the sister of the North Korean leader, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence, and International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach were among the powerful political and sports figures who attended the extravaganza on a chilly night. The two Koreas marched in behind a white flag that was emblazoned with a map of the Korean peninsula depicted in blue. North Korea's women's hockey player Wang Chung-gum, sorry about that name, and South Korea bobsled pilot Won Yun-yong both clutched the flagpole in a noteworthy display of unity. The two nations have marched together at an Olympics, but this time have taken the extraordinary step of combining on the composition of the women's hockey team. The two Koreas marched in behind a white flag that was emblazoned with a map of the Korean peninsula depicted in blue. North Korean women's hockey player Hong Chun-gum and South Korean bobsled pilot Won Young-yong both clutched the flagpole in a noteworthy display of unity. The two nations have marched together at an... Well, they just repeated that paragraph, okay? That's not me, that's the newspaper. Sorry about that. Through the eyes of 5 local children, organizers presented a journey through the country's past and future, showcasing the mythical white tiger, blue dragon, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. The show was designed to emphasize the connection between people and nature and the need for peace in the world, and was replete with dancers and wonderfully crafted, oversized animals. A handful of sports had previously begun qualifying rounds or actual competition, but the opening ceremony serves as an occasion for athletes to gather and celebrate their similarities rather than their differences and their rivalries. The athletes entered the stadium according to their names as rendered in Korean, with the exception of Greece, whose athletes by tradition enter first in tribute to the nation that held the Olympic Games in ancient times and revived them for modern times in 1896. The U.S. delegation numbers 244, but not all athletes participated because of their training or competition schedules. The red, white, and blue clad group was led into the stadium by flag bearer Aaron Hamlin of Remsen, New York, a 2014 luge bronze medalist. With Russia banned from the Games because of its past systematic state-led doping operations, athletes from that Olympic power marched under the name of Olympic Athletes from Russia and were preceded by a flag emblazoned with the Olympic rings. And the well-oiled, shirtless Tongan flag bearer from the 2016 Rio Summer Games, Pita Taufatofua, and his names are killing me, again delighted the crowd by marching shirtless and well-oiled in temperatures that didn't much exceed 20 degrees. Wow. He competed in Taekwondo at the Rio Olympics and will compete in cross-country skiing here as the country's only representative. Okay, a couple of other very different articles. This one's about the Budget situation in Washington. They can all claim wins in the big budget agreement. President Donald Trump, congressional Republicans, and Democrats too. Next up, however, is the Senate immigration battle that may well lead nowhere, complicated by divisions within parties, rubbed raw with a spending pact plus election year pressures that always make compromise challenging. In Washington's latest embarrassing display of governance by brinkmanship, a bipartisan accord bolstering military and domestic programs by $400 billion and deepening federal deficits became law Friday, but not before the government technically shut down. These guys have lost their minds. In what amounts to an achievement these days, lawmakers limited the overnight closure to less than 9 hours, the time between when agencies technically ran out of money at midnight and Trump's morning signing of the bill. It was the government's second shutdown in 3 weeks, following the January's 3-day closure when Senate Democrats demanded legislation shielding young dreamer immigrants from deportation blocked a bill keeping agencies open. This time, Senate passage was delayed until after midnight when Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky stalled the vote to protest Congress' willingness to drive up deficits. Paul said he hoped his stand would teach conservatives to not accept just anything because it comes from a GOP Congress. But House Speaker Paul Ryan called the brief shutdown entirely needless. The budget measure provides Pentagon spending increases sought by President Trump and the GOP, more money for domestic agencies demanded by Democrats, and $89 billion that both wanted for disaster relief. And they didn't pay for any of it. They're going to borrow every dime of it. The 2-year pact, which also continues the government's authority to borrow money, postpones any possible federal default or likely shutdown until after the November elections. But the 652-page budget bill says nothing about protecting the dreamer immigrants, and that largely explains why a quarter of Senate Democrats and a third of House Democrats voted no. The passage left Democrats with little leverage to force congressional action on preventing deportation of hundreds of thousands of the young immigrants who arrived in the U.S. as children and remained here without permanent legal protection. Democrats have fought hard, but in the end, many opted to say yes to other priorities and leave dreamers behind, said Frank Cherry, executive director of the Pro-Immigration America's Voice. He called that decision, plus opposition by many Republicans, inhumane and indecent. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky set next Monday as the start of a freewheeling immigration battle, a debate he promised when Democrats agreed to vote to reopen the government last month. Ryan hasn't scheduled House consideration, infuriating Democrats, but he said Friday we will focus on bringing that debate to this floor and finding a solution. And an article about the flu season, which has been a really bad flu season. The flu has further tightened its grip on the U.S. This season is now as bad as the swine flu epidemic 9 years ago. A government report out Friday shows 1 of every 13 visits to the doctor last week was for fever, cough, and other symptoms of the flu. That ties the highest level seen in the U.S. during swine flu in 2009. And it surpasses every winter flu season since 2003 when the government changed the way it measures flu. I wish that there were better news this week, but almost everything we're looking at is bad news, says Dr. Ann Schuchat, acting director of the Centers for Disease Control. The flu season usually takes off in late December and peaks around February. This season started early and was widespread in many states by December. Early last month it hit what seemed like peak levels, but then continued to surge. The season has been driven by a nasty type of flu that tends to put more people in the hospital and cause more deaths than other more common flu bugs. Still, its long-lasting intensity has surprised experts who are still sorting out why it's been so bad. One possibility is that the vaccine is doing an unusually poor job. U.S. data on effectiveness is expected next week. Some doctors say this is the worst flu season they've seen in decades. Some patients are saying that too. Vita Albertson, a 70-year-old retiree in Tampa, was sick for 3 weeks with high fever and fluid in her lungs. She said she hadn't been this sick from the flu since the 60s when she was a young mother who couldn't get out of bed to go to the crib of her crying baby. It was like wham, it was bad, it was awful, she said of the illness that hit her on Christmas Day. Heather Jossie, a 40-year-old Denver police officer and avid runner, said her illness last month was the worst flu she's experienced. I don't remember aches this bad, not for 4 days, said Jossie. It took me out. Albertson said she got a flu shot, Jossie did not. Last week, 43 states had high patient traffic for the flu, up from 42, the CDC reported. The flu remained widespread in every state except Hawaii and Oregon, and hospitalizations continue to climb. It's beginning to feel like a marathon, said Dr. Marchetti, emergency department medical director at Upson Regional Medical Center, a 115-bed hospital in rural Georgia. It just means we have to keep on keeping on. We're getting used to it. Betty?
The next article is out of Washington by the Associated Press. Citing national security concerns, the White House on Friday formally notified the House Intelligence Committee that President Donald Trump is unable to declassify a memo drafted by Democrats that counters GOP allegations about abuse of governmental surveillance powers in the FBI's Russia probe. White House counsel Don McCahon said in a letter to the committee that the memo contains numerous properly classified and especially sensitive passages, and asked the Democrats to revise the memo with the help of the Justice Department. He said Trump is still inclined to release the memo in the interest of transparency if revisions are made. The president's rejection of the Democratic memo is in contrast to his enthusiastic embrace of releasing the Republican document, which he pledged before reading to make public. The president declassified the document last week, allowing its publication in full. The president has said the GOP memo vindicates him in the ongoing Russian investigation led by Special Investigator Robert Mueller. But congressional Democrats and Republicans, including House Speaker Paul Ryan and Representative Trey Gowdy of South Carolina, who helped draft the GOP memo, have said it shouldn't be used to undermine the special counsel. On Friday, White House spokesman Raj Shah said Trump discussed the Democratic document with the White House counsel's office, FBI Director Christopher Wray, and another top Justice Department official. The president had until Saturday to decide whether to allow the classified material to become public after the House Intelligence Committee voted Monday to release it. And this next article is out of Raleigh, entitled Federal Judges, No Primaries for Appeals Court Seats. Primaries for state appellate court seats won't happen this year if a federal appeals court decision stands. A panel of judges Friday reversed a lower court decision that would have required the primaries, giving a victory to Republican state lawmakers. The GOP-controlled General Assembly voted last October to cancel the 2018 primaries for both trial court and appellate court seats. GOP lawmakers argued it made sense to hold only one general election for each seat this year because the House and Senate were debating changes to election districts for the trial court seats. They said they didn't want to create confusion if new districts were approved after candidate filing were completed under previous boundaries. The state Democratic Party and several county Democratic parties sued, saying their First Amendment right to association was harmed by the cancellations because they used primaries to coalesce party voters who favored candidates. The decision by a majority on a panel on the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals came 3 days before candidate filing would have started for 3 seats on the State Court of Appeals and 1 for the State Supreme Court. If Friday's order is upheld, filing for the seats won't occur until June. U.S. District Judge Catherine Eagles of Greensboro agreed last week that the cancellation of trial court primaries was justified, with the lawmakers' debate over judicial redistricting a legitimate reason. But Eagles signed a preliminary injunction that restored appeals court primaries, saying lawyers for GOP legislative leaders and the state offered no justification for getting rid of primaries for the statewide races. Eagles refused to delay her own order, so the legislature's attorneys went to the 4th Circuit. On the panel, U.S. Circuit Judge Stephanie Thacker and Paul Niemeyer voted to grant the delay, while Judge Diana Gribben-Motz voted against it, according to their order, which gave no reasons for the majority's decision. Eagles' ruling has created a confusing system of judicial elections on the eve of the election cycle, GOP attorney Martin Worf wrote earlier this week in seeking the delay, adding that there is simply not enough time for the state to educate potential candidates, for candidates to prepare to run, or for the state to prepare for the court-imposed two-tier system for electing their judges in 2018. State Democratic Party Chair Wayne Goodwin said the party was evaluating all further legal options available after Friday's ruling. Goodwin said it was the Republicans who injected chaos into our elections and took away North Carolina voters' right to vote in a primary election as part of redistricting effort to elect more GOP judges. State Representative David Lewis of Harnett County, which shepherded the measure containing the primary cancellation, said he was pleased with the appeals court decision. We think it makes more sense to open all the judicial filing at one time, Lewis told reporters.
Okay, let's look at the merit and demerits from the opinion page now for a few minutes. Merit. These are opinions of the Observer. Merit for Robinson County officials who have begun testing for Gen X in wells in the St. Paul's area near the Bladen County line. It's a wise, proactive step by the county's public health officials who are watching as the testing radius for the compound released from the Chemours plant on the Bladen-Cumberland County line steadily grows. Robinson is testing for Gen X at 2 related compounds that have been found in the Cape Fear River and in wells around the Chemours plant. Gen X and its relatives are used in the production of non-stick cookware and many other applications, including the linings of pizza boxes and even fast food wrappers. The chemical and others like it that have been used by DuPont, Chemours, and other companies is found around the world. It has been found to produce cancers and other health problems in animals, but human testing hasn't advanced sufficiently to produce definitive conclusions or even to establish safe levels in drinking water. The state is now testing for the chemicals in wells as far away as 2.5 miles from the Chemours plant, and would not be at all surprising of the testing zone as the testing zone continues to expand, since the state has found that Gen X is also being emitted into the atmosphere and is circulated on wind currents. Robinson County is initially testing 50 wells in the Shaw Mill Road area between St. Paul's and Bladen County line. County Health Director Bill Smith says that if Gen X is found there, the contamination may have spread into the Lumber River Basin, which would have implications all the way down to the PD River Basin in South Carolina. Demerit for all the courtroom chaos afoot as the filing period for this year's midterm election begins. Candidates can begin filing to get on this year's ballot at noon on Monday. The filing period closes at noon on February 28th. But even as filing begins, it's unclear whether will even be a primary for judicial elections. At the beginning of the week, the latest court decisions in a battle that is likely to continue indicate that there will be a primary for the North Carolina Supreme Court and Court of Appeals, but not for the District and Superior Court seats. But a federal court changed that late in the week, so the appellate level primary is off again. And the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that some of the new state legislative districts drawn at a court behest by an expert from California can be used in the upcoming elections, but maybe not the new ones in Wake and Mecklenburg counties. Shots are still being fired in that battle, and we expect more before it's over. The entire mess is a result of increasingly outrageous gerrymandering by this state's Republican leaders, who are determined to create and preserve districts that have given them an iron grip on the General Assembly and this state's congressional delegation. They hold a veto-proof majority in Raleigh and own 10 of our 13 House seats in Washington, despite the fact that Republican voter registration lags behind both Democratic and unaffiliated registrations. Demerit: for the stubbornly high infant and fetal death rates in Cumberland and many other counties in the Cape Fear region. The rates here are higher than both the state and national averages. The advocacy group North Carolina Child serves as a simple answer. North Carolina needs to extend health insurance to more people. The group says nearly 1 in 3 women in North Carolina didn't get prenatal care in their first trimester of pregnancy. Wow. The primary causes of infant mortality are premature birth and low birth weight. Newborns of mothers with no prenatal care are 3 times more likely to have a low birth weight, and 5 times more likely to die than children born to mothers who do receive prenatal care, the study reports. North Carolina Child urges lawmakers to pass the Carolina Cares program contained in a House bill filed last year. A merit: for the fundraising success of Friendship House, a nonprofit innovative program that provides shared residences for young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities and healthcare students. The project will include 3 homes and a pavilion. In each apartment suite, there will be 3 medical students from Campbell University, Methodist University, Fayeville State University, or Fayeville Technical Community College, and 1 friend, a person with disabilities who will be involved in work, training, or volunteer work. The housing complex will have 18 medical students who will stay for 1 or 2 years, and half a dozen Friends residents who may stay as long as 9 years. The goal is to help the Friends become independent and self-supporting. The Fayeville Friendship House will be the 5th in the country. The project has raised more than $850,000 towards its $1.3 million goal. The complex will be built in Haymount on the corner of Arsenal and Highland Avenues. A big cheer for the community leaders who have helped make it possible. Let's look at a sports page article for just a few minutes, since we're in the midst of ACC basketball season, and of course the big game coming up this afternoon is the State Carolina game at NC State at 2 p.m. So make sure you tune in for that for all you basketball fans. But the story reads: the Atlantic Coast Conference's stretch run looks more like a coronation than a race. Second-ranked Virginia has all but wrapped up the league's regular season championship and could rise to number 1 in the top 25 on Monday for the first time since the Ralph Sampson era. The rest of the league is far behind. Number 16 Clemson is the closest at 3 games back and playing for postseason positioning amid a jumbled mess in the standings with roughly 3 weeks left. Consider this: 6 teams are within 2 games of the second-place Tigers in the loss column, including Duke, North Carolina, and Miami. Somebody is going to come out of that pack, Florida State coach Leonard Hamilton said after Wednesday's loss to Virginia. We hope that's going to be us. The intrigue now is focused on who will claim the remaining top 4 seeds at next month's ACC tournament in Brooklyn and the double round bye that comes with them. At this point, that's all anyone can hope for, considering how well the Cavaliers are playing. Virginia, which hasn't lost a conference game and only 1 game in all, has won 15 straight games and is poised to go back to the number 1 in the top 25 on Monday after Villanova's loss to St. John's on Wednesday night, assuming the Cavaliers beat Virginia Tech at home on Saturday. They play at 6 o'clock tonight. That would also keep them on course for something that seemed unthinkable when they were picked to finish 6th in the preseason, the possibility of becoming an unbeaten regular season champion. In all, only 8 teams have ever gone unbeaten through the ACC regular season, the last being Duke in 1999. The challenge is even tougher since the league moved to an 18 game schedule in 2012 and 13. The guys have done a terrific job, Virginia coach Tony Bennett said after the team rallied from 11 down to win at Florida State on Wednesday. Would I have thought we'd be 12-0 at this point? Probably not, but they're playing the right way and they don't quit, that's for sure. The Tigers, Clemson, have won 4 straight since managing just 36 points in a loss at Virginia on January 23rd, to climb into sole possession of second place, as well as to put the Tigers within reach of their first NCAA tournament trip since 2011. It's not like we have this great margin for error, Clemson coach Brad Brownell said after Thursday's win against Pittsburgh. We still have to play really well to win games. Fortunately for us, we have, but we can't be looking and worrying about a lot of other things that take our eye off our preparation. Then there's the Blue Devils, the preseason ACC favorite, and the number 1 ranked team who has 4 conference losses. Touted freshman Marvin Bagley III has been terrific, but Duke has struggled defensively nearly all year and didn't match North Carolina's aggressive second-half edge in Thursday's rivalry loss in Chapel Hill. Now Duke has lost 3 of 4, including the home loss to Virginia on January 27th, along with a loss to St. John's team that was 0-11 in the Big East at the time. We've got to figure out something, Bagley said. We can't continue to lose games like this. Behind the Tar Heels and the Hurricanes, Syracuse, Florida State, and Louisville are in solid position for the NCAA tournament bids. North Carolina State and Virginia Tech are also in the mix. The Hokies beat the Wolfpack on Wednesday to give the league a shot at 10 bids a year after getting a record 9 teams into the field of 68. There's a bit of intrigue at the bottom of the league, too. Pittsburgh is flirting with becoming only the 7th team to go winless in ACC regular season play. Kevin Stallings' Panthers have suffered 10 of their last league losses by double-digit margins and have failed to reach 60 points in 9 of those games. Boston College went 0-18 2 seasons ago, but before that the ACC hadn't had a winless team since Maryland in '87. The Panthers' best chance to avoid that fate could come in 2 home games, Tuesday against Boston College and February 21st against Wake Forest.
The Dear Abby column today begins with a letter from a college student in Utah. Dear Abby, I am a 16-year-old girl who has started college early. I love my classes and I'm glad to be here. The problem is the dating culture here is huge. People go on dates all the time. I have been asked out several times and I feel comfortable going, but I feel dishonest when I don't tell them that I'm 16. However, if I'm upfront about my age, the offer usually gets rescinded and it becomes incredibly awkward. How can I have a fun college dating experience while still being truthful about my age? Dear college student, the age of consent for a girl in Utah is 16. For a young man, it is 18. You shouldn't jump the gun and announce your age before getting to know someone. If you are asked, of course, you shouldn't lie about it. However, I see no reason to volunteer the information when you are asked for a date. Dear Abby, do you think it is fair for me to do all the housework and pick up dog doo-doo just because I moved into my sister's house with her and her family? They have 5 dogs and 4 cats. No one else bothers to do it. When I try, no one else bothers to do it. I do it to lessen the smell. When I try to say something, they say I am causing problems. I don't have any animals of my own. Signed, Pooper Scooper. Dear P.S., I agree that the task of picking up after an animal, let alone 9 of them, isn't something most people look forward to. However, if you are living rent-free with your sister's family, perhaps you should consider your chores to be your contribution to the household. P.S. Because you mentioned that no one else cleans up the animal messes, consider finding more hygienic living arrangements as soon as it's feasible.
And on that note, we will draw our reading of today's paper to a close. This has been the reading of the Fayeville Observer on the UNC Chapel Hill System signal here at Fayeville State University. This is the North Carolina Radio Reading Service. There will be other programming that will follow that you can listen to after the conclusion of this reading. Your readers today have been Beth and Stuart Walters. We have been glad to be with you, and we hope you have a wonderful day. God bless you all. Hey.